YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So, it's been a while since we've seen the little Axial SCX24, and I've been toying around with various different motors. Got hold of this one, but that's definitely too big. And we've still got the stock one, that still works. And I've just got this one because I'm looking for something nice and easy that anybody can pick up. And I've got a brass pinion gear on this one. This is a mod 0.5 I believe, because I've got the Hot Racing 0.5 mod spur gear in there as well. But also managed to pick one of these up that's pretty much identical motor. I'm not sure, the output shaft's definitely longer and the mounting points are in the same place, so that's another one that we may be looking into. And I picked up a couple of capacitors, they're dirt cheap, just for the back of the other. But thought I'd give this one a try, because this one was about £6 UK delivered. It's just 050 crawler spec they sell it as. Now this little thing I found pretty interesting. So I've managed to get hold of, again, a few of these. I think kicking about somewhere. So we've got this one. That's the stock mounting position. But then I've also picked up this one that's got them in all four. They do this in silver, red or black, so this should be good for mounting that motor in. I think I'm going to have to drop the pinion off it first, but looks like it lines up pretty well. So let's get it stripped down. So we're going to have to take these two out, and then all the ones that hold the battery tray to get down to the all the drive gears. So we'll crack on with that one and see how everything fits. Right, so all we've took out so far, these two, and the two at the back to get the top of the chassis off. And now you want these two removed, and these hold the gearbox in, if you like, or transfer box, whatever you want to call it. And then you've got one more screw just in the top here. And they're all the same length, the ones from here. So then you should be able to lift this out. Right, so we've basically got two screws on that side and then two screws on the bottom, and I believe it's these screws, and I think there's one underneath there somewhere that holds this on, but we've also got to get these off. So you've got two little hex drives in there, so I'm going to get them off, get all the screws out of this, and then we should be able to fit this new motor plate. Right, so this is how far we've stripped it down. So next thing we need to do, you don't need to take the rear drive shaft off, just the front one. So we're going to need the motor plate on, so let's see how that lines up. So that should sit nicely back together. Then first thing you're going to need to do, you've got two of the longer screws that sit directly behind the spur gear. so we're going to need to get them in first. And don't go crazy tight with these because they are only little screws into plastic, tiny threads, and it does make your life a whole lot easier if you've got one of these MIP 0.050 drivers. So that's them two in, and then basically we're swapping, I believe that's the stock one, so we're swapping that out for the hot racing. Now if we're putting a slightly more powerful motor in, I've decided to up the quality of at least the pinion and spur gear. That's the easiest way I've found of putting that nut on. Right, so now we're going to have to see how this will line up, and also what size pinion gear we're going to get away with, because although it's got movement up and down, there is no left and right movement at all. That definitely looks like that gear mesh is going to be a little tight, but let's see if we can get away with it. So I'm just going to put this pinion gear on. Right, so all I've had to do to get the bigger pinion on is the opposite slots to these. I've just took a tiny little bit off with the rotary tool, just to elongate these to allow me to slide it sideways very slightly, and same on the bottom of the hole around the motor mount. I've slightly took a little bit away from that just so I can get a mesh in that I'm happy with. That feels nice and smooth. So up to now, not too bad. I believe the next thing we need to get on, I think it's these two bottom ones, and I believe they're the longer screws. So we'll get them back in. Trying to remember which order these all go in. And then I think the final two shorter screws are to hold the front of this case on. Now I did contemplate getting the hot racing covers, but I've seen a few people mention clearance issues, and I thought it's been a bit ambitious changing the gear, pinion and motor, so I thought we'll try it with the stock housings first, see if we run into any issues before needlessly changing parts. I think these two screws are the shortest ones of the gearbox housing. That looks like we're going to have to take a bit off that, so we've got a bit of clearance for that bigger pinion. Let's see how much we need to remove on that and where from. Well, it looks like it's only a tiny bit, so it looks like we need to remove some of this just to give that pinion a bit of clearance. Right, so I've just machined that away a little bit just to give us clearance, and I've just took a tiny bit out of the bottom corner for the lower screw. So if I get that into position, that should line up now. So it's the shorter of the screws that go in this one. And one thing I will be interested to see with this this motor is if you have to reverse the red and black power cable, because I've seen that on quite a few of them, that although they come with the correct plug, the red and black cables are the wrong way around. It's quite an easy job to swap them. You can either do it at the solder point on the motor, so you can solder them from there, or you can just pop the pins out of that and swap them. But right, let's get the drive shaft back on, or prop shaft. So that's us drive assembly back together. Now for the fun part of getting it back in. So it looks like we're going to need a very slight amount of that rail shaving. So let's get that marked. So we need a little bit of that taken away. Right, so that's the centre drive and everything fastened back down. I've took a tiny bit away from there just so it's not catching on the chassis. And looking at it, I believe these want reversing. So let's see if I can find a little pin to pop these out with. In fact, that'll do. So all you need to do is just hook them out. And then just swap them over. Make sure the little flaps are back down, stop them pulling out. So if we plug that in and stick a battery on it, let's get the controller on. So forwards, backwards. So yeah, for this motor they need reversing. Right, let's see what other modifications we're going to need to do. So, battery tray. Don't think we're going to get away with leaving that leg on. So basically, if you've got a standing knife, just cut that leg clean off, and then we should be able to get this back into position. Let's start by getting a few of these, get 2 screws in it at this side. And this is literally just a mod that I was curious to see exactly what it entails to fit even a slightly longer motor in. I'm not entirely sure whether, I mean we've not had any of the stock motors fail yet. I think that's mainly down to the fact that we swapped the plastic hexers on the front of them. Got brass ones in there from very early on. Because I believe the stock plastic ones are partly what's binding too much on the stock parts. So that's his antenna and everything on. Well, it does fit nice, even if it's a bit of work to get it on there. Let's get this back together. Now, as to whether it's a modification that I'd advise people doing, if you like me and you just like modding stuff for the sake of modding it, I mean, we've tried these SCX24s with an entire variation of brass parts on, aluminium parts, different servos. And to be totally honest, it's made very little difference to the way they crawl, or the ability for them to climb up things. I would say your biggest difference is probably going to be put some oil in the standard shocks to slow them down a bit, and shock springs and tyres. As for whether it's worth changing all the motor, the servo and everything, if your stock ones break and you can't get hold of any stock ones, or if you've had multiple stock ones break, then yeah, by all means, modify away. Or if like me, you just like messing around with stuff and just making it do stuff it either shouldn't do or didn't do out at box. But I'd certainly never condemn anybody for just modding things for the sake of modding things, because it's RC and it's fun. But let's get the battery fastened in. Definitely going to have to shorten that cable or tidy it up a little. But it has been a while since we've run this one, so finally all back together with some mixture of hot racing parts and cheap parts off AliExpress and a brass pinion. In case you're curious of the pinion I'm using, basically that's what I ordered. A whole bunch of them. And if I can work out which one they are, I'll put a link in description. But get the controller on. Well, it can still climb. It climbed well to start with. Let's see if we can get it to nah, it's just going to run away. But it does manage the tower MIP. I'm not entirely sure if I think it's faster or not. Maybe we should have done a speed test first. as to whether it works, yeah, you can definitely fit the hot racing, I'm sure the mod 0.5 gears. It does come with a plastic pinion. I believe that's it. If I can get to focus on it. Come on, focus. But I thought if I'm swapping it out, might as well put them in it. But the SCX24, with whatever that motor is, some cheap Chinese version of the barrage motor, I believe, or a replacement for the barrage motor. But yeah, thanks again for watching WTF Rc Cars. If you like and subscribe, don't forget to hit the notification bell, and I'll catch you guys again.